What if the people who hurt you the most aren't just misunderstood, but deliberately wearing a mask? What if they don't need your explanation? They need your silence. Stop trying to explain yourself to demons in people. Because the truth is, some people aren't interested in understanding you. They're only interested in controlling you. In this video, we're going to uncover why you should stop explaining yourself to people who drain your energy. Have you ever felt like no matter what you say, it's never enough for certain people? You try to make them understand, but they twist your words or throw your kindness back in your face. It's exhausting, isn't it? But here's the thing. Some people aren't simply confused or misinformed. Some people are toxic, manipulative, and emotionally draining. And the hardest part? You keep explaining yourself, thinking they'll change, thinking they'll hear you out. But that's a trap. You see, not everyone is deserving of your explanation or your time. And learning when to walk away is a skill you absolutely need to master. In this video, we're going to explore why it's vital to recognize when someone's wearing a mask, pretending to care, when all they're really doing is feeding off your energy. We'll talk about why it's so hard to break free, why you end up giving them more chances than they deserve, and how to finally let go for good. By the end, you'll understand why your peace is worth more than any explanation you could give. Let's dive in. You've probably been there before, trying to explain yourself to someone who just doesn't get it. Maybe they misunderstand your intentions, twist your words, or act like your feelings don't matter. At first, you think it's a simple case of miscommunication, so you try again, a little more patiently this time. You explain your point, maybe even apologize for things that weren't your fault. But the more you explain, the more frustrated you become, and the less they seem to care. The cycle repeats, and you're left feeling drained, unheard, and hopeless. Here's the truth. Some people are not simply misinterpreting your words or your actions. There are people in this world who wear a mask of kindness, but beneath it lies something far darker. These are the people who intentionally manipulate, confuse, and drain others. They don't just misunderstand you. They don't want to understand you. They're more interested in keeping you off balance, forcing you to justify yourself over and over, until you're too exhausted to fight back. These are the demons in human form. They wear a smile, but their goal is to feed on your energy, your time, and your peace of mind. But why do we keep explaining ourselves to these people? Why do we believe that if we just try hard enough, if we just say the right thing, they'll finally get it? One of the main reasons is because we're conditioned to want to be understood. We want our truth to be heard. We want validation, especially from people we care about. We hope that if we keep explaining, they'll see our side and everything will be okay. But that hope is often misplaced. We end up wasting our energy on people who are never going to listen because they're not interested in your truth. They're only interested in their own agenda. Let's talk about why this is so draining. It's not just about the effort you put into explaining yourself. It's about the emotional toll. Every time you explain, it's like you're giving a piece of yourself away. Your time, your emotional energy, your mental clarity. Every conversation where you feel misunderstood chips away at you. The worst part is that you end up feeling like you're the problem. You start doubting yourself, questioning if maybe you are too sensitive, too dramatic, too demanding. But the truth is, these people are not interested in seeing you for who you truly are. They just want to keep you in a state of confusion, guilt, and doubt. You start to internalize their behavior. You think maybe you're not being clear enough, so you try harder. You feel guilty for not making them understand. But here's the thing. No amount of explaining will change their mindset. They don't want to hear you. They want you to keep defending yourself. Keep giving them power over your thoughts and feelings. The more you explain, the more you give them control. And that's the moment you need to realize you're not the problem. The problem is that you're wasting your time trying to reason with someone who doesn't care to understand. So, what happens when you stop explaining yourself to these people? You start to reclaim your power. You stop letting them manipulate your emotions and your time. You realize that you don't owe them an explanation. You don't have to justify your actions, your feelings, or your existence to anyone. Your peace is too valuable to be constantly fighting for validation from people who will never give it to you. When you stop explaining, something incredible happens. You start protecting your energy. You no longer have to waste hours or days rehashing the same conversation, trying to make someone understand you. Instead, you begin to set boundaries. You recognize when someone is emotionally draining you, and you walk away. It's not about being cold or indifferent. It's about knowing that you deserve better. You deserve respect, understanding, and peace of mind. And sometimes, the only way to get those things is by walking away from people who never respected them in the first place. The hardest part is knowing when to walk away. It's easy to stay, to keep hoping things will get better, that this time they'll finally see your side. But if their behavior hasn't changed by now, it's unlikely it ever will. And by staying, you only allow them to continue wearing that mask of kindness while they secretly tear you down. The truth is, your energy is precious, and there are people in this world who will appreciate it, who will value your thoughts, your feelings, and your time. But those people are not the ones who demand endless explanations. They're the ones who see you, hear you, and understand you without you having to prove your worth. The real power comes from recognizing these toxic patterns and knowing when to let go. It's not about being confrontational or dramatic. It's about being wise enough to recognize that some battles aren't worth fighting. Some relationships aren't worth saving. You don't need to explain yourself to anyone who doesn't truly see you. And once you realize that, you can start living a life that's free from the emotional chaos they bring. But here's the thing. Even knowing all of this, it's not easy to walk away. It's tempting to keep explaining yourself, to keep giving people the benefit of the doubt. It's easy to tell yourself, maybe this time they'll understand. But the truth is, many of us stay in toxic relationships or situations because we don't want to face the uncomfortable reality of walking away. We think we're being kind, generous, or patient, but we end up hurting ourselves more in the process. The challenge is facing that truth. Some people aren't going to change, and no matter how much you explain, they'll never hear you. It's hard to break free from that cycle. You've spent so much time trying to prove your worth to someone who doesn't care that when the time comes to walk away, it feels like you're abandoning something important. You've invested so much emotion, energy, and time into trying to make things work, and walking away can feel like giving up. You might wonder if you're making the right choice, if you're being too harsh, or if you'll regret it later. But staying in a relationship where you're constantly explaining yourself is not a healthy choice. And here's the hard truth. If you don't walk away, you're giving them permission to continue treating you like this. The longer you stay, the harder it becomes to see the reality of the situation. You get trapped in a cycle of self-doubt, guilt, and exhaustion, all while they continue to feed on your energy. You end up trapped in a relationship where your value is determined by their whims, where your needs are ignored, and your emotions are invalidated. You need to ask yourself, is this relationship worth my peace? Is it worth my emotional well-being? And if the answer is no, then walking away is the healthiest choice. It's not easy, and it might not be immediate. But once you make the decision, you'll start to feel a sense of freedom that you didn't know was possible. Walking away doesn't mean you're weak or incapable of dealing with tough situations. In fact, it's a sign of strength. It means you've realized that your peace and mental health are more important than staying in a relationship that is constantly draining you. It means you've set boundaries and are taking responsibility for your own well-being. And that's something you should be proud of. The key to breaking free is recognizing the signs that you're in a toxic cycle. It's realizing when the other person isn't listening or caring, and understanding that your worth is not tied to their approval. Once you do that, you can start to make decisions that prioritize your happiness and peace, not just your desire to explain yourself to someone who isn't even listening. The truth is, you don't owe anyone your explanation, and once you stop explaining yourself to those who aren't worthy of your time and energy, you'll find that the world opens up in new, healthier ways. You'll be able to focus on relationships that are mutually respectful, where communication flows naturally, and where you feel heard without constantly defending yourself. It's not easy to walk away, but it's the first step toward reclaiming your life, your energy, and your peace. Don't let anyone keep you trapped in a cycle of self-doubt and emotional exhaustion. You are worthy of respect, understanding, and love. And sometimes, the only way to get that is by walking away from people who will never give it to you. Here's where it gets tricky. Once you realize that you need to walk away, there's the whole issue of actually doing it. It's not just a mental decision. It's an emotional and practical challenge. You're not just cutting ties with a person. You're cutting ties with a version of yourself that has been invested in that person. Maybe you've been friends for years, or you've spent months or even years in a toxic relationship where you kept hoping things would change. The hardest part isn't even the act of leaving. It's the emotional weight of finally accepting that they're never going to change. And that's where the hope trap gets you. You hold on to the hope that one day they'll realize their mistakes, that one day they'll apologize, that they'll turn around and say, "I was wrong, and I see you now." It's so tempting, isn't it? To keep waiting for that moment, for them to finally get it. But that moment rarely comes, and even if it does, it's often too late to repair the damage. By the time you've explained yourself 1,000 times, you've given so much of yourself away that the relationship isn't the same anymore. You're not the same anymore. When you keep explaining, you begin to sacrifice your own boundaries. You convince yourself that if you just try harder, you can make them understand. You can make things right. But you can't make someone change if they're not willing to change themselves. This is where the biggest shift needs to happen, understanding that you can't fix them. And more importantly, you don't need to. You don't owe them your energy, your emotions, or your time. You don't owe them the effort of explaining yourself over and over again. It's not easy to walk away, though, because leaving someone behind means acknowledging that they were never going to be the person you wanted them to be. But here's the kicker. They were never that person. The person you wanted them to be existed only in your mind. They were never capable of fulfilling that role in your life. And that realization can be painful. It's hard to accept that someone you've invested so much in, someone you've cared about, was never truly capable of giving you what you needed. So, how do you begin? How do you make that first step toward breaking free? The first thing you need to do is set clear boundaries. Boundaries that protect your time, your emotions, and your mental health. Start by recognizing the toxic patterns. When you're dealing with someone who has no interest in understanding your feelings, stop trying to explain yourself. Instead, set a firm boundary. If they refuse to respect that boundary, it's time to let go. Trust that no amount of explanation will ever make them see things differently. Your words won't change their actions, and their actions will always speak louder than your explanations. It's also essential to protect your peace by distancing yourself from situations where you feel manipulated or invalidated. If they continue to drag you into conversations where you're left defending yourself, simply refuse to engage. You don't owe them an explanation. You don't owe them any more of your energy. The more you practice walking away, the easier it becomes to recognize when it's time to let go. But here's the part that most people struggle with: the guilt. You might feel guilty for walking away, especially if this person has been a part of your life for a long time. You might feel like you're being harsh or that you should try harder. The thing is, guilt is a tool that toxic people often use to keep you stuck. They use your guilt to keep you in the cycle of explaining and defending yourself. But that guilt is not yours to carry. You are not responsible for their actions, and you are not responsible for fixing them. At some point, you have to ask yourself, what's worse? Staying in this unhealthy relationship, giving away my energy and peace, or walking away and protecting myself? When you realize that your peace is worth more than endless explanations, walking away becomes the obvious choice. It's not about being cruel, it's about being kind to yourself. You're choosing to love yourself enough to stop fighting a losing battle, as hard as it may be. Walking away is the most freeing thing you can do for yourself. You stop waiting for something that will never come. You stop sacrificing your peace for someone who will never appreciate it. And most importantly, you begin to take back control over your life. You stop letting them dictate your emotions. You stop explaining yourself to people who will never see you for who you truly are. It's time to put your energy into relationships and situations that lift you up, not ones that keep dragging you down. You deserve peace. You deserve respect. And most importantly, you deserve to be heard without having to explain yourself endlessly. Now, here's the pivotal moment, the point where everything shifts. You're standing at the crossroads. You've realized that the person you've been trying to explain yourself to is never going to hear you, never going to change, and never going to respect your boundaries. The hardest part is acknowledging that the relationship you've been holding on to is not the one you thought it was. And that's where the key moment comes in, the realization that you can walk away and finally put yourself first. It's easy to stay stuck in the hope that things will improve, that the person will eventually come around. But here's the truth, they won't. And that's the key moment you need to face. You can continue explaining yourself over and over, hoping for a change. Or you can choose to stop, walk away, and reclaim your peace. This isn't about giving up. It's about freeing yourself from a cycle that's draining you. It's about recognizing your worth and knowing that you deserve to be in relationships where you don't have to justify your every move, where your voice is heard without endless explanations. The key moment is when you decide that enough is enough. You don't have to stay in a relationship, whether it's friendship, family, or romantic, that constantly takes from you and never gives back. The power is in your hands. You don't have to explain yourself to people who can't see your value. You don't have to beg for respect, because respect isn't something that should ever be negotiated. It's time to walk away, not out of anger or frustration, but out of self-love. The hardest part of leaving is realizing that they will never change. But the best part is knowing that you're finally taking control over your own life. When you stop explaining yourself to people who don't deserve your time, your energy, or your peace, that's when you start to experience real freedom. You no longer have to fight to be understood by people who have no interest in truly seeing you. You can begin to prioritize your emotional health, your boundaries, and your peace of mind. And that, right there, is the moment you step into your power. You stop being a prisoner to someone else's refusal to listen and start living your life on your own terms. That's the key moment. The shift from constantly defending yourself to protecting your peace. It's the moment when you realize that your worth is not determined by someone else's validation. You don't need to explain, justify, or defend yourself. You just need to walk away and start living for you. Now that you've recognized when it's time to walk away, it's important to take a step back and reflect on what you've learned. You've taken control of the situation, acknowledged the toxic behaviors, and decided to protect your peace. But here's where the most important lesson lies. You can't keep making the same mistake. You can't keep allowing people who drain you to take up space in your life. Walking away is a powerful step. But it's not just about the immediate relief. It's about making a lasting change in how you treat yourself and how you let others treat you. You've learned that not every relationship is worth saving. You've learned that no matter how much you want someone to understand you, there are some people who are just incapable of truly hearing you. And now, it's time to apply that lesson across your life. The key is to stop giving your energy to relationships where you feel misunderstood or invalidated. The moment you let go of someone who doesn't see your worth, you open space for the people who will. You make room for healthy, balanced relationships where respect and understanding flow freely. And you stop wasting time and energy on people who only take from you. This doesn't mean you'll never face challenging people again. Life is full of difficult personalities. But now you know how to recognize them before they drag you into a never-ending cycle of explaining yourself. You've set boundaries. You've learned to listen to your intuition. And most importantly, you've learned that your peace matters more than their approval. This is a lesson that you'll carry with you for the rest of your life. You'll know when to stand firm in your boundaries, when to walk away, and when to prioritize your own emotional well-being. The most powerful thing you can do after walking away is to never look back. Don't second-guess yourself. Don't wonder if you made the right choice. You did, because your time and energy are too valuable to waste on people who refuse to see your worth. When you stop explaining yourself, you start to understand that you don't need anyone's permission to take care of yourself. You don't need anyone's approval to walk away from what's not serving you. It's a process. There may be times when you feel guilty or question if you did the right thing. But as time goes on, you'll realize that letting go was the best decision you could have made. You'll feel lighter, freer, and more at peace with yourself. And as you continue to grow, you'll find that your relationships begin to shift. You'll attract people who value you, who listen to you without the need for constant explanation. And most importantly, you'll realize that your peace is non-negotiable. You've done the hard part. You've taken the first step. Now, trust that with each passing day, it gets easier. The more you practice walking away from toxic relationships, the more you begin to honor yourself. And that's the greatest gift you can give yourself: peace, freedom, and the knowledge that you are worthy of relationships that truly see you for who you are. If you found this video helpful, don't let the journey end here. Check out the next video on recognizing toxic relationships and how to break free for good. Your peace is worth fighting for.